I used to think the goal was to survive the waiting room unchanged. Get through it. Keep your head down. Do your time. Walk out the same woman who walked in, just a little more tired, a little more worn, but fundamentally the same. That's what I told myself. Get to the other side without losing too much. But here's the truth I had to learn the hard way. And y'all, this is the whole point of this final episode. You don't just come out the same. Because the waiting room isn't just a place you pass through. It's a place that passes through you. And I didn't come here to survive. I came here to be remade. For 5 episodes, we did the hard work. We counted every single thing the waiting cost us. In part 1, I told you the truth I'd been hiding. I left mentally years before I could leave physically. My body was still showing up, but my mind was already across the ocean. And that split, that living in 2 places at once, that was its own kind of exhaustion. In part 2, I showed you the relationships that couldn't cross the bridge with me. The friendships that were built on the old versions of me. The people who loved who I used to be and couldn't find their footing with who I was becoming. In part 3, I admitted something I'd been ashamed to say out loud. Joy had become a foreign language. I was in survival mode for so long that I forgot how to feel anything but the next task, the next hurdle. In part 4, y'all, I took off the wig. I let you see what the years of holding it together had done to my body, the weight, the exhaustion, the way stress settles in your bones. And in part 5, I asked the question that scared me the most. Who did I become while I was waiting? Not who I used to be, not who I hoped to be, but who I actually was in the middle in this mess. 5 costs, counted, named, witnessed. But here's what surprised me when I finished the accounting. When you actually count every cost, when you look at every single thing the waiting room took, you find something you didn't expect. Every single cost had a corresponding gift. And the gifts, they only came because of the waiting. Let's talk about it. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to walk you through every cost, and for each one, I'm going to show you my gift. And then I'm going to speak directly to your waiting room, because your waiting room might not look like mine. And that's the point. The gifts translate. The first cost, the mental escape. I checked out years before I could check in somewhere new. Physically present, mentally gone. My gift? Clarity. When you can't pretend anymore, you stop pretending. I finally knew with absolute certainty what I wanted and where I was headed. Now let me speak to your waiting room. Maybe you're waiting to leave a marriage you've been mentally checked out for years. You're still in the house, still at the dinner table, still saying, I'm fine. But your heart moved out a long time ago. The gift hidden in that cost? Clarity. You now know what you will and you will not accept in the relationship. You're not confused anymore. You're not sure. You know. Maybe you're waiting to leave a career that's been draining your soul. You sit at that desk, you take those meetings, but your mind is already somewhere else. Dreaming about the business you want to start, the nonprofit you want to launch, the work that actually matters to you. That mental split is exhausting, I know, but the clarity it's giving you, that's gold. You're not drifting, you're discerning. Or maybe you're waiting for a child to launch, an adult son or daughter who's struggling, and you've been mentally living in their life instead of your own. The cost is real, but the clarity about what you can and can't control, that's a gift that changes everything. The second cost, the relational cost, the friendships that fell away, the people who couldn't understand why I was changing, my gift, a real circle. The people who stayed proved themselves. My tribe is smaller, yeah, but it's real. And I'll take that over big any day. Your waiting room here might be a friendship that ended when you stopped being the version of yourself they needed you to be. You set a boundary. You stop being the one who always gives, always shows up, always absorbs the damage. And they walked. That loss is real. But so is this. The people who are still standing next to you, they've been tested. They passed. Maybe your relational loss is a family rift, a sibling you haven't spoken to in years, a parent who couldn't accept your choices, an adult child who's pulled away. The waiting room of estrangement is one of the hardest there is, I know. You're waiting for a phone call, waiting for an apology, waiting for a door to open that may never open. I'm not going to minimize that, but I want you to ask yourself, who's shown up? Who has become family even without blood ties? The waiting is revealing your real circle, and that is not nothing. Or maybe you're waiting through a marriage that's in a crisis. You're still in it. You're still fighting for it. But everything feels fragile. The waiting is teaching you about what love really costs, about what commitment actually means, about your own capacity for grace. That's formation, even in uncertainty. The third cost, joy's disappearance, the gray, the survival mode, comparison showing up every day to steal what little piece I had left. My gift, discernment. When joy started coming back, and it did, I could tell the difference. Counterfeit happiness versus the real thing, distraction versus peace, entertainment versus contentment. Your waiting room here might be grief. You lost someone, a spouse, a parent, a child, a friend. And joy doesn't just feel absent, it feels inappropriate. Like laughing would be a betrayal. I see you. And I'm not going to tell you to choose joy. You've heard that enough. But I want you to hold on to this. The day joy does come back, even for a moment, you will recognize it differently. You won't take a single good day for granted. That's discernment, and it only comes through loss. Maybe your waiting room is infertility. You're watching pregnancy announcements, baby showers, birthday parties, and every single one feels like a reminder of what you don't have. Joy feels like a language other people speak fluently while you're still learning the alphabet. The gift hidden here, you're learning what you actually want. Not what culture says you should want, not what your family expects, but what you genuinely desire. The clarity is a foundation. Build on it. Or maybe you're waiting through financial pressure. The kind where every month is a calculation, every unexpected expense is a crisis. And joy feels like a luxury you can't afford. The waiting is teaching you what actually matters. When resources are scarce, you find out what's essential. That's discernment you carry forever. The fourth cost, the physical toll, the weight, the exhaustion, the way my body started communicating in symptoms because I wouldn't listen to the whispers. My gift, self-knowledge. My body wasn't my enemy, it was my teacher. Now I know my signals. I know when I'm depleted before I crash. Your waiting room here might be a health battle, a diagnosis that changed everything, a chronic condition that has no end date, a recovery that's taken longer than anyone promised. You're waiting for your body to feel like yours again. The gift? You're learning your body's language. You now know what drains you and what restores you. You know the difference between tired and depleted. You know when to push and when to stop. That's self-knowledge, and that's hard-won. Nobody gives that to you. Maybe you're waiting through menopause. Whew, y'all, nobody prepares us for this. The hot flashes, the brain fog, the way your body suddenly feels like a stranger's. You're waiting to feel like yourself again. But what if this season is teaching you to listen to your body in a way you never did before? What if it's forcing you to prioritize rest, to say no, to actually take care of the body you've been ignoring for decades? Or maybe you're a caregiver, taking care of aging parents, or a spouse with health issues, or a child with special needs. Your body is tired not from your own condition, but from carrying someone else's. The waiting is teaching you your limits. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. The fifth cost, friend, the identity erosion, who I was while I was waiting, not the before Vanessa, not the after Vanessa, the in-between woman who didn't recognize herself. My gift, my authentic self. I lost the performed version and found the real one underneath. Y'all, this is the one that connects every single waiting room, because whether you're waiting to leave a country like me, or waiting to leave a marriage, or waiting for a child to come home from addiction, or waiting through a divorce you didn't want at 55 years old, or waiting for a career door to open when you feel too old to start over, or waiting through grief that has rewritten your entire identity. The waiting room will strip away who you were pretending to be. The woman waiting for her husband to get sober, she's not the same woman who said I do. She's harder in some places, softer in others. She knows things now about codependency, about boundaries, and the difference between helping and enabling. She's not who she was, and that's not a loss. That woman waiting through a career transition at 50 plus, she's not the same woman who built that first resume. She's learned that her worth is not her title. She's learned that starting over is not the same as failing. She's learned that the second act can be the best act. That woman waiting through a divorce, she's not the same woman who walked down the aisle. She has scars. She also has wisdom. She knows now what she will never tolerate again. She knows her own strength in a way she couldn't have known before. The woman waiting for a prodigal child, she's not the same mother who held that baby in her arms. She's learned that love doesn't always look like rescue. She's learned to pray differently. She's learned to release what she can't control. The woman waiting through grief, she's not the same woman who existed before the loss. Part of her died with the person she loved, but another part, a deeper part, was born from the aftermath. She understands suffering now. She can sit with someone else's pain without trying to fix it. The woman waiting through singleness, she's not the same woman who wrote that list of what she wanted in a partner at 25. She's learned to build a life full on her own. She's learned that being alone is not the same as being incomplete. Here's what I need for you to hear. The waiting room was never a punishment, y'all. It was a forge. And the woman who walks out, she's not damaged. She's different. And that difference is the whole point. I want to pause here and do something we haven't done in this series. I want you to name your waiting room, not mine, yours. Because I've been talking about living abroad, about overseas job hunts, and some of you are in that same waiting room. But most of you aren't. Most of you are waiting for something else entirely. So let me ask you directly, and I want you to answer this honestly, in your journal or just in your heart. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for a marriage to heal? You've been in counseling, you've been praying, you've been doing the work, and you're still not sure if it's going to survive. That waiting room is real. Are you waiting for a child to come back? A son or daughter who's lost to addiction, to mental illness, to bad decisions, to a path you never would have chose for them. You wake up every morning checking your phone. You go to bed every night with a knot in your stomach. That waiting room is real. Are you waiting for a diagnosis or waiting to heal from one? Sitting in a doctor's office, waiting on lab tests, waiting for your body to cooperate, waiting to feel like yourself again. That waiting room is real. Are you waiting for a financial breakthrough? The debt that never seems to shrink, the job that never seems to come through, the business you're building that hasn't taken off yet. You're doing everything right and still feels like you're running in place. That waiting room is real. Are you waiting through grief? The loss that reshaped everything. The empty chair at the table, the voice you can only hear in old voicemails now. You're waiting to feel normal again and starting to wonder if normal even exists anymore. That waiting room is real. Are you waiting through a divorce you never wanted? Rebuilding at an age you never expected to be starting over? Learning to sleep alone again? Learning to budget on one income? Learning who you are without the we? That waiting room is real. Are you waiting for purpose? That nagging feeling that there's something more you're supposed to be doing, but you can't name it. You're restless, you're searching, you're watching other people live out their calling while you're still trying to figure out your own. That waiting room is real. Are you waiting for permission? Permission to change careers? Permission to set a boundary? Permission to want what you want without apologizing for it? Permission to stop being the version of yourself everyone else expects? That waiting room is real. Whatever your waiting room looks like, name it right now. Don't rush past this because you can't receive the gifts of the waiting room until you admit you're in one. Now here's the second question, and this one matters even more. Who have you become while you've been waiting? Not what haven't you gotten, not what's still missing. Who are you now that you weren't before? What have you learned? What have you stopped tolerating? What do you know now that you couldn't have known without this season? For me, the moment I knew was on a Tuesday. Ordinary, nothing special. I was driving home from the job I've been trying to leave and caught my own reflection in the rearview mirror. And I had this thought that stopped me cold. I'm not the same woman who started this. Not, I'm almost there. Not just a little longer. I'm already different. And y'all, I like this woman better. She's not naive. She's not performing. She's not waiting for permission. She knows what she wants. And she knows what she's worth. And she knows that God didn't bring her this far to abandon her now. I want that moment for you. Not when the waiting ends, now, in the middle of it, because the transformation doesn't start when you get what you're waiting for. It's already happening right now in your waiting room. So here's what I realized. There are three specific gifts that only come through the waiting room. Comfort can't produce them. Ease can't teach them. You have to earn them. And you earn them by staying in the room when every instinct tells you to run. Number 1, depth. Shallow roots can't survive storms, y'all. A tree that had to fight for water, that had to push roots down through rock and clay, that tree stands. The waiting room drove your roots down into something real. You now have a substance, a gravity, a groundedness that comfort never produces. People can feel it on you. They may not have the words for it, but they can sense it. This woman has been through something. This woman isn't easily shaken. Whether you've been waiting 6 months or 6 years, depth is one of the only things in life that nobody can give you and nobody can take away. Number 2, discernment. Discernment isn't just knowing what's good and bad. It's knowing what's good for you. It's knowing which voices to trust. It's knowing when to say yes, and maybe more importantly, when to say no. The waiting room burned away the non-essential stuff. You don't have the bandwidth for the drama. You don't have the energy for relationships that drain you. Before the waiting, you might have said yes to everything. But after the waiting, you say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. And you don't apologize for it. That's not rudeness. That's discernment. Number 3, authority. Let's take a breath here because this is a big one. You can now speak about this season with authority, not because you studied it, but because you lived it. Your story is your credential. Your scars are your qualification. Think about it. Who would you rather learn from about starting over? Someone who read a book about transitions or someone who rebuilt their entire life from the ground up? Who would you rather hear from about faith in the dark? Someone who's always had an easy road or someone who's held onto God when they couldn't see the next step. The woman who waited through a divorce, she has authority to speak into someone else's rebuild. The woman who waited through a health crisis, she has authority to minister at a hospital bedside. The woman who waited for a prodigal child, she has the authority to pray with another mother who's losing hope. The woman who waited through career failure, she has authority to coach someone starting over at 50. You are becoming the woman other women need to hear from. Our spiritual anchor is from Isaiah chapter 61 verse 3. And y'all, when I found this verse in the middle of my waiting, I'm telling you, it rearranged something in my spirit. To bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. 3 exchanges: ashes for a crown, mourning for joy, despair for praise. Y'all, God didn't just remove the ashes. He didn't sweep them away and leave an empty spot. He replaced them with a crown. Not an apology, not an explanation, a crown. That's not just healing, that's promotion. He didn't just end the mourning. He poured oil of joy, that same oil they used to anoint kings and priests. He anointed my sorrow and turned it into something sacred. And the spirit of despair, that heavy, can't get out of bed, what's the point weight? He didn't just lift it, he replaced it with a garment of praise, something visible, something other people can see and know she's been with God. Now here's what I need for you to understand. The exchanges didn't just happen when I got what I was waiting for. They happened in the waiting room. That crown came while I was still standing in the ashes. The oil was poured while I was still crying. The garment was placed on my shoulders while I was still in the dark. God didn't wait for me to arrive to crown me. He crowned me in the middle of the journey. And He's doing the same for you right now in your waiting room. Whatever it looks like, whatever you're waiting for, the exchange is already happening. So my friend, here's the final piece. And this might be the most important thing I say in this entire series. You didn't walk through all of this just for yourself. This wasn't just about your growth, your healing, your transformation. Those things are real and they matter, but they're not the end of the story. Now, I know some of you are still in the waiting room. You haven't walked out yet. The door hasn't opened. The job hasn't come. The marriage hasn't healed. The child hasn't returned. The diagnosis hasn't flipped. You're still here in the middle of it, and you might be thinking, Vanessa, how am I supposed to help somebody else when I'm not even on the other side yet? Y'all, hear me on this. You don't have to be on the other side to have something to give. The breakthrough you had last week, the moment you stopped crying long enough to take one step forward, somebody else is where you were before that breakthrough. And they need to know it's possible. The prayer you prayed this morning, the one where you finally stopped asking God to change your circumstances and start asking Him to change you, somebody is still stuck in the first prayer. They don't even know the second one exists. The conversation you had with a friend where you admitted out loud, I'm not okay, but I'm still here. Somebody is still pretending, still performing, still saying I'm fine when they're falling apart. Think about it. The woman you were 6 months ago, what did she need to hear? Not from someone who had already arrived, from someone who was just a few steps ahead, someone who could say, I'm not through this yet, but here's what I'm learning right now. That person, that's you. Now for those of you who have walked out, whose waiting room door has opened, who are standing on the other side, you know exactly who you need to call. Somebody is standing where you stood and they can't see the door. They need your story, not a sermon, not a motivational quote, your story. But for those of you who are still in the waiting room, don't wait until you've arrived to open your mouth. The testimony doesn't start when you get the keys to the new house. It starts the moment you realize the waiting room is changing you. So let me ask you 3 questions. Wherever you are, emerged or still in the middle. First, who is 1 step behind you right now? Who is where you were 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago? And what do you know now that they don't know yet? Second, what's the one thing you tell the woman you were when this waiting started? Not a list, not a strategy, 1 sentence. What does she need to hear? And could you say the same sentence to someone else who's standing where you stood? And third, who can you talk to this week? Just 1 person, not a post, not a platform, a conversation, a coffee, a phone call, where you can say, I don't have it all figured out, but here's what I'm learning. Because here's the truth. Your testimony isn't something you earn by arriving. It's something you build by staying in the room, staying in the process, staying honest, even when it's messy. The waiting room is producing something in you. Don't bury it until you cross some imaginary finish line. Don't minimize it because you're not done yet. Don't tell yourself your breakthrough isn't significant enough to share because you're still waiting for the big one. Somebody needs to know that you made it through this week, not this decade, not this season, this week. Because if you can keep going, even in the middle of it, then they can too. That's the commission. Not go when you're ready. Go now with whatever you have from wherever you are. Now, y'all, I want to close this series out with 3 journal prompts. Number 1, what did the waiting room build in me that comfort never could? Go back through the 5 gifts. Which one lands hardest for you right now? Name it. Write it down. Own it. Prompt 2. What truth do I now carry that someone still waiting needs to hear? Don't edit yourself. Write it like you're talking to a friend across a table. Prompt 3. If I could write 1 sentence to the woman who I was when this whole waiting started, what would I say? Just 1 sentence, but make it count. Yeah, we did it. 6 episodes, 5 costs, 5 gifts, 1 transformation. If you walk this whole journey with me from the mental escape in part 1, through the relationships we lost in part 2, the joy we recovered in part 3, the body that started screaming in part 4, the identity we lost and found in part 5, and now this, the emergence, the reversal, the commissioning, I want you to know I see you. And I am so proud of you. You didn't just watch a series, you walked through a mirror. And I hope you're walking out of it seeing yourself in your waiting room differently. Leave me a comment below and tell me, which one of the 5 gifts landed hardest for you? And what waiting room are you currently in? If this series meant something to you, share it with 1 person who's in their own waiting room. That's how this works. We pass it forward. Hey y'all, I'm Vanessa and this is Ways of Change. As always, you're never too late and your peace is never too far.